Story time about how I stole my best friend's boyfriend. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. My best friend and I had known each other for almost 7 years. We met in college and she was always dating around and had several boyfriends. I had no boyfriends because my parents were super strict even though I was in college. There was only one boy that I really liked, but like I said, my parents were super strict so I could never date anyone. What's worse is that I know this boy had a crush on me too. Fast forward 5 years later, my best friend and I are living together. She's on Tinder, Bumble, and all these other dating apps. She had been going on several dates because she really wanted to find a relationship. Well, one day she comes home and she says that she really liked this guy she went on a date with. They ended up dating a month before I even met him. One day she invites him over because she wanted me to meet him. He comes in and as soon as we lock eyes, I'm in shock. It's the boy that I had a crush on in college. Which, like I said, I knew he had a crush on me too. We hugged and chatted for the entire night, and I could tell my best friend really liked him. A few days later, he starts following me on Instagram and we start DMing. He tells me that he had a crush on me in college and I tell him that I did too. My best friend's boyfriend starts DMing me on Instagram. He confesses that he had a crush on me when we were in college together, and I told him that I did too. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. From that day on, he would DM me every single day and we would just flirt back and forth. I started feeling really guilty and I told him one day I can't do this anymore. That's when he told me he also felt guilty and that the best thing was for us to stop talking, so we did. I was so sad. A few weeks passed by and my best friend asked me if she could have the apartment all to herself because she's planning a romantic dinner for him. I said yes, but I felt so jealous. Left the apartment because I realized that I was so in love with him. I went to the supermarket and ate a whole pack of Oreo cookies and went to the movies. I get a text message from my best friend asking me to come home immediately. My stomach sank and I thought she had found out. When I get there, she's crying and she says that he broke up with her. I asked if he said why and she said because he was in love with another woman. My stomach sank again. I was there with her the entire night while she cried knowing her boyfriend left. My best friend's boyfriend had broken up with her because of me. I didn't have the heart to tell her. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. A few days later, she started going out on Tinder dates again. I could see that she was feeling better, so I decided to confess to her everything. And she told me she could tell that he and I liked each other. Then she told me I should date him. Well, I didn't waste any time. I sent him a text message and asked him if he wanted to meet up for dinner. And when we did, he asked me to be his girlfriend. We dated for 6 months before he proposed. He even got my name tattooed on his neck. The only problem is that my mom thinks he might do the same thing to me. I don't even want to think about that because I truly believe that he loves me. But let's hope not. I've been planning the wedding and I asked my best friend to come. Of course she said yes. She's super happy for me. And she actually has a boyfriend now. Do you guys think my fiance will end up doing the same thing to me?
Hey everybody, so happy Wednesday. I am filming this on a Wednesday because tomorrow I will be on my way to Philly to get the bump shaved off my nose. I think I've talked about it in a few previous videos, but I'm not sure. I'm also in a little bit of a bad mood today, but you know, things happen. Yeah, but without further ado, I'm going to bring you guys up close. There we go. Okay, before we get started on today's story time, for most of the video I will be looking in this direction because my mirror's over here and I would like to see what I'm doing. Most of these story times are sent in by an anonymous person, and I do tell all of these story times in a first person point of view, so if you don't like that, then you can exit out of this video. But without further ado, let's get into today's story time. Okay, so story time about how my sisters were dating the same guy. This sounds like that one TV show called Sister Wives. Do you guys remember that at all? Yeah, that's what this reminds me of. So a little background information. I was a junior. Now, when this all went down, I was about 17 years old, but I literally remember it like it was yesterday because of how much of an impact it left on my family and how traumatic it was. My sisters and I all really had a great relationship. I was the youngest. My one sister, Millie, was 24 years old and she was the oldest. She was smart and super pretty, but for some reason had major self-confidence issues. I really don't know why, but you know. My other sister, Lisa, she was the definition of a blonde. Super pretty, no brains. Hate to say that about my sister, but it was true. Still is. I don't know what it was, but all their lives they felt like they had been pinned against each other. Like they acted that like life in general was a competition between both of them. I don't know why. That's how it's always been. They would always steal each other's clothes, makeup, shoes, anything they could. Like if a clothing article looked better on Millie, Lisa would steal it. And yeah, that's just how they were. Quick little interjection here. If my makeup looks weird, it's because I'm not putting it on my hairline because I don't want to have to wash my hair tonight. So summer's almost here and it seems like it might be time for Millie to move out. Lisa has another year until she has to move out, my parents said. Fast forward, figured it's time for Millie to get the hell out of my parents' house. So my dad hires some movers. No big deal, right? You know, he just hires movers like a normal person would do, right? Wrong. Not only did my dad get movers, but he got the best looking ones to do the job. He should have known probably not to do that considering he had a house full of 3 girls. But as we've learned being on this planet for a very long time, men don't think. To be honest, I should just blame my dad for this whole situation. Just kidding, I'm not gonna do that. Anyways, yeah, they were super hot, right? Like even my mom was like, well, this caused my sisters to go into a panic mode like little psychopaths. Like, I kid you not, both of them went upstairs, they got changed into some skimpy outfit, they both did their makeup in a span of like 10 minutes. The whole time my sisters spent more time hitting on these guys, especially this one, instead of helping move or anything like that. And they both wanted this one guy who was really hot, so it was just like a shit show. And for some reason, like desperate attention-seeking people, they spent that night crying, comparing why their lives were worse than each other's. I don't know why the hell they did this. I figured what I pretty much got out of this is if whoever's life was sadder meant that they could have the guy, who we're gonna call Adam. I don't know what the end result of that ended up being, but I thought it had been Lisa because I saw her going out with him the one day. And then I was really confused because a few days after he had came and picked up Millie. This had me very confused. It felt like I was on an episode of Sister Wives. Very, 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 very confusing. So eventually I go and decide to collect a little bit of information about what's going on. I decide to go and talk to my sisters individually. After talking to both of them, I found out that they both get 3 dates with this guy, and whoever he likes more can have him. That is like the epitome of being desperate. It was, I can't deal. I can't. Well, fast forward, summertime is over, school is about to start back up, and it seemed as if this year was going to be a good year for everybody. Then I kid you not, a day after school starts, my family and I find out that Millie is pregnant. This is why we can't have nice things. So she decides to keep it and she says, this baby's a blessing even though the father and I didn't work out. I'm like, okay girl, if that's what you call it, that's you. She said that she knew in her heart that this is what she wanted. So you know what? I tried to be happy for her. I was like, okay sis, you know, if that's what you want, that's what you want, period. That being said though, her and Adam were over and she had no plans of them getting back together or anything. Which is kind of understandable considering that, he was now screwing my sister Lisa. So eventually she says that she just wants to contact him and let him know that she's pregnant, and she wanted to let him know how the baby was doing. Because apparently she had been pregnant for a while, she just didn't tell anybody. But then, you'll never guess what happened. Literally, as soon as she is pulling out the phone to call him while our whole family is sitting at the table, she gets a call from him. At this point, we're all super confused on how he even knows in the first place. He was like, you need to get rid of that baby. This isn't fair to me. Like, I can't raise 2 kids. And we're all like, whoa, 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 whoa. First of all, how do you know about this? Second of all, what do you mean raise 2 kids? Well, then she tells him that she's not getting rid of it and she expects nothing from him. But then she also goes, what do you mean another kid? He said, yeah, your sister's pregnant too. Oh, yep. Lisa is pregnant too. Wow, my life should be like a soap opera at this point, literally. But then he also says Lisa's known that she's pregnant for 2 months. Like, she knew she was pregnant. So at this point, we're all pissed at Lisa for not telling us. We were all shook to the bone. Lisa starts to cry. She starts apologizing. Yes, Lisa is there while he's telling us this. Because we all look at Lisa like, what the fuck did he just say, bitch? Like, Maddie from Euphoria comes out of Millie. It was bad. That didn't really help the situation though. Millie did decide to get an abortion after that. She was like, fuck to the no. And Lisa was pretty much dead to her. Oh, also, Lisa and Adam were gonna get married. Yep. that was the plan. Millie and I don't really talk to Lisa as much anymore. After that happened, it was just like not a good situation. They fought about it for months. Like out of the blue, Lisa would call Millie, be like, I'm so sorry, please forgive me, da 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 da, I'm so sorry. And then Lisa would be like, go off yourself, please, respectfully, thank you. Well, my mom was really the only one who talked to Lisa after that. But another thing, he ends up leaving Lisa and tries to hit on me. Yep, my 17-year-old self. And he ended up like getting infatuated with the situation, I feel like, of getting with my sisters. And like we had to get a restraining order against him because he would like stalk me and stuff. So yeah, but overall it pretty much ruined our family. I mean, the only good thing that really came out of it was my nephew Parker, and he'll sometimes be over my mom's house whenever Lisa isn't there, of course. Okay everybody, that is the end of today's story time. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more of me, maybe hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to know when I post my next video, make sure to click that bell. I always post on Saturdays, and if you would like to send in your anonymous story time, make sure to click the link in the description. But other than that, I will see you guys next Saturday with a new story time. Hey guys, so as you can see, we are in a different setting. We have a different background. I kind of missed my white background, I'm not gonna lie. Let me know what you guys think about it down below in the comments. Also, I did go to Philly last weekend. It has felt like a long week because of the swelling and recovery that I've been going through with my nose. It's annoying, I'm not going to lie. My nose is super swollen. You know, as some of you know, I went to go and get a bump shaved down on my nose, and the bump looks bigger than ever, but I know it's just the swelling, so that's the most annoying part about all of it. Let me know if you guys like the white background. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into today's story time. Okay, I'm going to bring you guys up close. There we go. Okay, so quick little rundown before we get into today's story time. For most of the video, I will be looking in this direction because my mirror's over here and I would like to see what I'm doing. These story times are sent in by anonymous people, and I do tell these story times in a first-person point of view, so if you don't like that, then you can exit out of the video. Okay, so a little background information. I was 15 and a freshman in high school, and this story starts about right after my winter break. I went to a Catholic school that was pretty much known for its sports rather than academics. Which, to be honest, I don't know why my parents put me in this school, because they put both of my brothers in there and they came out and didn't go to college. And they're still living with my parents at 30 years old. That being said, the whole school part was really easy. You had to be extremely stupid to fail. Literally. But hey, I guess that's what you get for paying $40,000 a year for an excellent education. Anyways, with that being said, everyone had to play a sport. Literally everybody. I mean, I guess it was good that they had pretty much every sport that you could think of, but for the girls, the easiest one was cheer, which was a surprise, but anybody who was garbage, they pretty much just put in the back. And I was terrible at all things sports, so I got put in the back. And there were cliques on this cheerleading squad, which by the way had 45 girls on it because it was so easy, and almost all of them had their own clique except for like 7 of us, including me. The rest of them were in little groups between like 3 and 5 girls, I would say, and none of these girls would really communicate outside the little groups. Anyways, these girls would not communicate outside of these little cliques that they had. But besides that, there was one group of girls. There were 6 girls, 1 junior, 5 seniors, who basically ran this cheer squad, okay? And they were assholes. Literally assholes. Like, I remember the first day that I started, I went up to them and asked them a question about like the uniform or whatever, because you had to wear certain uniforms whenever you would practice. And I went up and I asked the one, because obviously they're in charge, so I figured they were the people to ask. And she's like, why the fuck are you talking to me? And I'm like, what? So I thought that she was joking, and I was like, ha ha ha. Anyways, question, she was like, no, why the fuck are you talking to me? Yeah, somebody needed to humble her. Like, please. Yeah, she was a raging bitch. I didn't get to ask her the question. She told me to go ask somebody else and not to talk to her again. Well, a little while after that, I had found out something that I wasn't really supposed to know about the clique that ran everything, okay? One day while I was visiting my stepdad's house, I heard his son, who also happens to go to my school. His son was 3 years older than me, by the way, so he was a senior, talking to Sarah on the phone. Sarah was a part of the mean girl clique on the cheer squad. So because I was kind of a loser and had nothing better to do with my time, I decided to eavesdrop in on their conversation. I know, I'm a weirdo. Leave me alone. And when I heard what they were talking about, I literally almost passed out because I was shook, okay? She was breaking down prices for sexual acts. What the fuck? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know, I have my phone right there. I'm pressing like the voice memo record thing, you know, I'm like holding it near the door, you know, and his room was all the way on the top floor, which was the 3rd floor. So he wasn't really worried about anybody going near his door. So he wasn't afraid to talk super loud about everything, you know. Anyways, like I said, they were breaking down the prices of sexual favors and what her and the other 5 group of girls in that clique were charging for different things. Now, I was super confused, but my dad had came to pick me up, so I had to hurry up and run downstairs. But after this, I decided that I needed to do a little bit of digging to find out what the fuck was going on. Literally. Because I'm out here and I'm like, I am on a cheerleading squad with a group of prostitutes. Oh my god, what the fuck? Anyways, it's like shit that you hear about in movies, literally. So I never really visited my mom a lot because, to be honest, I hated my stepdads and I also hated his kids because his kids were entitled little assholes, right? And the one tried to fuck me. Yeah, they were gross, okay? So then I decide that I am going to start visiting her a little bit more often. So eventually, a week later, I make it over to my stepdad's house. And by the way, the only reason why I went to this school in the first place was because my stepdad wanted me to go there. My dad was not wealthy enough to send me to that school at all. To be honest, I wish I just would have stayed at my other school. Anyways, back to the story. So I had stayed at my stepdad's house the one night, and when I woke up in the morning, I told my mom I wasn't feeling well, so she let me stay home from school that day. And all of my stepdad's kids had went to school, and we're gonna call this stepbrother James, okay? I went up to James's room, and for school, usually you would take your phone and your computer. Well, I sort of thought I was fucked because I started going through his old phones and I couldn't find anything, right? So I'm looking around a little bit more when all of a sudden my mom barges in the room and I'm like, fuck. So she's like, what are you doing in here? And I'm like, oh, James told me that I could use his iPad because mine isn't working and I need to get onto an assignment. Turns out she had his iPad, so she gave it to me and I was like, oh, like, what's the password? Because I'm like, fuck. She told me the password, I got on there, and I hit the jackpot. Literally. I went into all of his messages with Sarah and a few of the other girls. So as I'm going through this iPad, which has loads of secrets in it, I'm taking pictures with my phone, you know, like recording also because people will be like, oh, like you can edit that screenshot, like what the fuck? So yeah, bitch, I took a video too. Pretty much what I got from the conversations and everything like that is that this group of girls does stuff with the guys from, you know, that go to the school for money. Because even though sometimes you go to a rich school, you can't always get girls. That's what I'm getting from half of the guys that I'm seeing that they slept with. And the senior guys, they were actually like, okay, anyways, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here. Probably not. But Pretty much. They would go and they would tell the girls who wants to do what with them, and if they help the girls find somebody, then they got a percentage of the cut. And I guess the good thing about also going to a school where everybody's wealthy is that you have between $300 to $700 to pay for this shit. Cause yes, that is literally what they were charging for some shit. So now I'm sitting there and I'm like, what do I do with this information? Because it is illegal, but I don't think it's illegal. It's definitely illegal. Anyways, the only reason why I say I don't think it's illegal is because it's with kids their age. So yeah. Anyways, okay. So pretty much I wanted in on this. I wanted to make money, but I also did not want to fuck random people. So what did I do? I grabbed all of my receipts that I stole and I pretty much confront these girls. I walk up to them and the one bitch that was rude to me last time was like, what the fuck do you want? So then I was able to come back and say, oh, I don't think you want to be talking to me like that. And she's like, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? Da 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 da, like a bunch of shit. And then I literally just held up my phone with a screenshot of their menu. And oh my god, she shut the fuck up. She looked like somebody just shit in her cereal. And that's when I knew that I had the upper hand in the situation. So she goes over, she gets the rest of the girls that are in her clique, and she's like, oh my god, like she knows about what we're doing, this, that, and the next. And I'm just still standing there with holding up the phone like la 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 la. 4 of them start crying, and then the other one, Sarah, she sounded like she was gonna cry, but she didn't want to cry. She was like, are you gonna call the police? I was like, no, but I have a different idea instead. So my idea was for them to pay me $1,000 a week to keep hush. You know what I found out about what they were doing though? It wasn't even the fact that they needed money, right? It was just the fact that, I don't know, they just liked doing that because their families were way wealthier than anybody else's really in the school. So anyways, like I said, I would pretty much get $1,000 a week to keep my mouth shut. Okay everybody, that is the end of today's story time. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more of me, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to send in your anonymous story time, make sure to click the link in the description. I do post every Saturdays, but I'm going to be trying to post 1 more day a week. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but I'll let you guys know in the next story time. Love you guys.
Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend to leave the house because she's not cooking? I work a job and she's a stay-at-home wife. She does all the chores and cooks amazing food, so I'm fine with it. I make enough and have inheritance for the both of us anyways. Now Friday, I came home to my dirty clothes on the couch and no food for me. I was surprised at this. I asked her what was all this, and she said she was sick of babying me. I asked her what she meant, and she said that she talked to her friend who talked sense into her. She told my girlfriend that she was raising a man-child, and that she was becoming a replacement of my mother to me since she does everything. I was shocked that she believed all of this crap, and we had a huge fight, and the next morning nothing changed. We kept fighting, and on Saturday evening, I had enough of this. I told her that she would have 10 days to leave the apartment and find herself a place. I told her I wouldn't be her father anymore by paying for everything, and she would have to make arrangements if she was going to continue behaving that way. We fought and she left to her friend's place. Am I the asshole for this?
Am I the asshole for telling my wife to wake up and realize our daughter needs help? My wife came home yesterday and I told her we needed to visit a doctor. A teenager should not lose that much weight. She said I was being too overprotective and that I was freaking out for nothing. I told her she needs to wake up and realize this is a problem. She then got offended and ignored me for a few hours. Update, we're at the doctor now and she did lose some weight, so we'll go back for weekly checkups. The doctor also gave us referrals to dietitians and a therapist. She was able to open up to us, which was a relief, and it will be a challenge, but I'm thankful for support. Am I the asshole for telling my wife to wake up and realize our daughter needs help? I, 39 male, am married to my wife and we have an amazing daughter together. She's 14. My wife went on a work trip this past week, so I was in charge. My daughter came up to me and asked if we could go shopping because her pants no longer fit. I figured she meant she needed a size up and said of course. When we got to the store, she was picking very small sizes. When she tried them on, I realized she went down 3 pant sizes. I got concerned on the ride home and asked if she wanted to talk. She's not overweight at all, so this weight loss concerned me. She then closed off. Am I the asshole for kicking my husband out of the room until I gave birth to our son? I said the joking was getting annoying and I'd rather have verbal encouragement. He loosely did but made a joke out of it, holding my hand but quickly making it into a jog and making it bark or stroking my arm. He commented on how I'm soft like a marshmallow. I told him to quit and how he was stressing and annoying me, but it never stopped. Before the final push, he says, "You've spread your legs farther than that, you got this." I lost it and screamed for him to leave. The birth went smoothly, but once I saw my husband again, he was livid. He called me a bitch for taking the moment away from him, and ever since I got home, he's ignoring both of us. Am I the asshole for kicking my husband out of the room until I give birth to our son? I, 25 female, gave birth to our son almost a month ago. The contractions were more painful than I was expecting, and the nurse refused to give me an epidural. In the labor room, a new nurse finally relieves some of my pain. Half an hour passes, and my husband arrives with flowers. I did appreciate them, but wished he got there earlier. He was joking around to try to make me feel better, and it pretty much worked. I felt the need to push, but the nurses said I wasn't ready, so I consciously kept my body from pushing. This was the most hair-ripping, excruciating pain I have ever experienced. My husband continued joking. Am I the asshole for saying "in your dreams" when my husband told me to apologize to his sister and her husband after they made my son wet himself? My son has ADHD. He's hyperactive and has a medical condition. Days ago, my best friend of 10 years passed away. I asked my husband if he could stay with my 4-year-old son so I could attend the funeral. He said yes, but then took him to his sister and her husband's house to watch him without telling me. At the funeral, I received a text from my sis telling me to come get my son after he wet himself in her house. I was so confused about how he ended up there because he was supposed to be with his stepdad. My son was crying and wet, so I asked what happened. They said he was making so much noise while playing with the kids, so they put him on timeout. Sister-in-law's husband denied him access to the bathroom. Am I the asshole for getting a teacher fired when she wouldn't let my daughter eat in class? My 47 female, daughter 13 female, is type 1 diabetic and sometimes hypoglycemic. Due to this, we set up a 504 that says she can eat a snack in class whenever needed along with other accommodations. At one point, one of her new teachers denies her a snack while hypoglycemic. She nearly passes out, but in the next class she's in, the teacher has enough common sense to let her eat a snack before passing out at school. When she told me, I immediately called the teacher. When she called back, I lectured her and told her that she needed to let my daughter eat a snack when needed. She says it's not allowed, but I tell her that due to my daughter's 504, she's legally required to give my daughter an exception.
Years ago, I broke up with my boyfriend Dan, but I decided not to tell him. Dan had been coming around to my apartment and my work even though I repeatedly told him I was not interested. I had been planning to move to get away from him and I didn't want him to have an excuse to be in my life. So when I moved away, I didn't tell him I was pregnant and I didn't put his name on the birth certificate. Last year when my daughter was 2, I got married and my husband adopted her. Dan and my sister were still friends in high school, and since Dan still lives in my hometown, they occasionally catch up. A week ago, Dan called me and said that he found out through my sister that I'd been pregnant not long after we broke up. He was furious that I had never told him and that the baby might be his, and accused me of keeping him away from his daughter. I told my husband, and he's furious that I never told him about my daughter's father. He was always under the impression that her father hadn't wanted to be in the picture, and he's been cold to me ever since I told him. I do not ever want Dan around my daughter, and I think I was justified in my decision to protect her from him. But Dan keeps calling and asking to see his daughter, and my husband says I betrayed both him and Dan by lying about this.
Am I the asshole for telling my sister she was dating my biological father?
Hold on. Oh my God. What? I need time to process this.
She goes, I, 24 female, and the product of my mom having an affair. Fortunately, my dad decided to forgive my mom and keep me, and I had a pretty good upbringing. When I was 17, my mom took me out for ice cream and introduced me to my bio father. She said that she felt I was old enough to know the truth and explained about her affair, while also, A, making me promise I wouldn't tell my older sister, 27 female, in the present, and B, hammering home, along with my bio dad, that he'd never be a part of my life and didn't want me. It was a lot, I won't lie. Fast forward to the present. My big sister has always gravitated towards older men. And 2 months ago, she shared a picture of herself and her new boyfriend.
Oh my God.
Who, to my shock, turned out to be my biological father.
My husband and I found out 2 months ago that we are expecting our first child. Last week, we officially announced it via text and phone calls to our friends and family. The next day at work, I found out that one of my coworkers had taken the photo of my sonogram I had sent them in the group text and posted it on her social media to fool her ex-boyfriend, who she broke up with a few weeks ago, into thinking she was pregnant. I never wanted my sonogram on the internet. I don't have a Facebook or an Instagram or anything like that, and I feel